Yeah, man, Elliott Wilson contest title, Detroit. You see this man? He's on camera, man. He don't do a lot of camera interviews. Black Milk. What's up, baby?
Man? How you doing, man?
Detroit's own, man.
Yo,
had to bring you back home.
I know. I had to come back. You know, I was like, it's only right for us to do this interview in the D. You know what I'm saying? Like, me being, living somewhere else now, but I was like, I had to.
You're in LA now, officially.
I'm in LA now, but it's only right to do it in the hometown. You know.
Well, you were saying this album, the Fever album, you're telling me like half of it was conceived here, right?
Yes. So my man's Cote, shout out my man's Chris Cote, Hot Bias Studio. So we recorded most of the stuff here, and like the other half in LA. So yeah, man, this was still had to have that energy and that spirit of the city in the music. You know what I'm saying? So I had to come back.
No, definitely, man. I mean, a lot of times with the contest, I get guys before the record came out. The record's available everywhere, but I know there's a lot said on it. And like your album's standing the test of time, man. Your catalog's getting kind of extensive now, man.
We at the sixth, seventh album, type. So man, it's great. It's a blessing. You know what I'm saying, to be able to keep going and keep banging out music, and most importantly, I guess, having the fans support, people still rocking with me, all these years. So that's the great thing about it. So yeah.
And Fever's still very rooted in Detroit.
Always, like, no matter where I go in the world, man, like, the essence of the city is Detroit is always gonna be with me, with my music. So it's just a certain bounce, certain energy that I just have that I put in the music. So yeah, that's never going nowhere. So yeah,
let's listen to it, man. Once again, man, Black Milk, baby.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fever, let's get it. Contest, title. Contest.
Yes.
Black Milk, baby.
About to do it, man. Finally, man.
So you're not jaded, man? Another album, it's time to make an album. Like, tell me about the mo, because like you're very mysterious in how you move, man.
Man,
you like that? Is that what you like about your place in hip-hop?
I don't know. It's not something I purposely do to try to be like super, low key. Is just, I guess it's just a part of my personality.
Yeah,
dog.
it's reflective of your real personality.
Yeah, I just do what I do, and I rock with people who rock with me. So yeah, man, that's basically what it is, but I think, that keeps people kind of interested in what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't oversaturate anything, not the music, I don't over-promote myself, which could be, a bad thing sometimes, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I just move at my own pace, and it's worked for me this long, so.
What was your approach with Fever? Like, what makes this distinctive from the other projects in your catalog? How did you approach it?
Well, I would say like my last couple albums, No Poison, No Paradise, and If There's a Hell Below, they were more like, they were a little darker, and they were more about like my upbringing, I would say, like my personal life. So with this one, Fever, like even with the title Fever, like it comes from like just kind of representing the climate and the temperature being high of today, you know what I'm saying, what we living in. So I'm kind of like just more so addressing like what's been going on, like, what's been like a topic of discussion for the last 2 or 3 years, and whether it's like current events with social issues or whatever. So this album wasn't necessarily personal in the sense of like I'm giving you my life story or whatever. This one was more so like I'm talking about what's going on around me, what I see going on in the world, and how I'm personally like maneuvering through it, and just my perspective on all of these things that everyone is talking about. So yeah, from whether it's police brutality type stuff, or like whether it's sexism, whether it's, politics, whether it's all of that, you know what I'm saying? Anything that's been in, been a discussion for the last few years, so yeah.
Reflective in your art.
Yeah.
Well, let's start it off with that Laugh Now, Cry Later. That was the first one you gave us, right? That's the first one.
Yeah, that was the first joint, so I'm gonna hook this joint up real quick.
What made it, why Laugh Now, Cry Later? Like, you did a kind of an ill visual with it too. Like, why did you think that should be the first look?
This joint was more about, man, this came from like a conversation that I had with one of my homies. We was talking about just like, just observing how people talk online, or more so about how people like go through an emotional roller coaster online, and we don't know if like, are people really aware of that? And for example, like, an event, an issue can happen in the world, and everybody can be hot about it, mad about it, talking about like blah, 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 this split. And then it's just kind of crazy how like a few minutes later, sometimes seconds later, you might see a meme or something about that same issue. Then everybody is just like
clowning it or making
laughing
fun of it.
at it. Or we find like, we figure out a way to find humor in all of the crazy shit that's happening in the world. So I thought when I seen that, and when I had that convo, I was like, damn, that could be a dope song, Laugh Now, Cry Later, and so the song is kind of like almost like a timeline. You scrolling through a timeline, You know what I'm saying? And you seeing one issue after the next, and it's some good shit, then it's some funny shit, then it's some fucked up shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what the song was, and even on my delivery on that song, you know, it's kind of like I space the bars out just so you can like really have an understanding of what I'm saying. So yeah, that's it.
Let's get into it, man. Laugh now, cry later.
Here we go.
2 2 2 2.
Like look on the beat too, baby.
Yeah. Do I see a soul or do I see a facade? Either you hurt or happy, can't make up your mind. Laugh now, cry later. On the timeline, should I hide in a disguise from strangers? Watching my highs or my demise. Laugh now, cry later.
Being so self-contained, like with production too, like how does a song like that come together in your mind? Like, do you mess with the track first? Like, how does it?
Yeah, that's one of the, most of the time, like 90% of the production, or the songs I should say, like starts off with the beat. So yeah. So that's kind of always the process. Like I rarely write the song first and then, you know, put a beat to it. Like I kind of let the music guide what the lyrics do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and that's always been a process for like since the first album I ever put out. So yeah, just that's the beat side of my brain. You know what I'm saying? Like just always want to get to the beats
bongos
first.
underneath there or something like that.
Yeah, that's actually my man's Chris Daddy Dave. You know, legendary drummer, percussionist. You know what I'm saying? I had the pleasure of like having him play on a few tracks. So yeah, and that was him playing percussion on that particular song, Laugh Now Cry Later. So yeah, shout out to him.
So then when you lay vocals, like you said, like it's also, like you said, very unique the way you're spacing the verses out. Like,
yeah.
Is that just experimentation? Like how do you go about that when it's time to lay the vocals down?
Yeah, man, like especially now, like in this time, I try to, you know, play with different flows, different patterns, you know what I'm saying? And for whatever reason, lately, I've been wanting to space out, you know, the lyrics and the flows and just my phrases and the bars, just having more space between the words for, you know, I don't know why, just having like a more like laid back, calm, you know, calmer type of approach to the vocal, you know, to the vocal performance, I should say. So yeah, in this album, it's funny because that was one of the things that made me slightly nervous about this album. I was like, man, because I knew I didn't have any like super aggressive joints on the album, or super like just traditional, just boom bap in your face hard joints. So this one was more of a vibe. So I was like, man, I hope cats rock with the more vibed out version, like, you know what I'm saying? Where I'm like, but and you know, the response been good so far. So, you know, I can't complain. So I'm glad people rocking with that sound. So yeah. And
then True Lies, right? You gave us True Lies after that.
Yeah, True Lies was, and this is like my personal fave, man. So,
oh, that still?
Yeah, still. I just love this joint, man. This is one of those tracks where I actually didn't manipulate any of the product. Look, this dude want to come out when it's a green light too. It's crazy.
Detroit, baby.
right. But nah, this is one of the tracks where I didn't even manipulate none of the production. Like, it was all live. You know, these like the musicians here in the D that I was working with, my man Ian Fink.
I saw some of the footage you put online. You be putting bands together. You be conducting, man. You like a conductor, man.
I had a couple young cats out here that was like the glue to my production. They played almost on every song, man. Like I say, my man Ian Fink, he was a keyboardist, and this young cat named Sasha Kashperko, he was a guitarist. So they played, you know, any key parts, the guitar parts you hear on the album is them. So, and this was one of the joints that they played on, and my man Daru Jones, he's playing drums on here. And yeah, this kind of started off with us just in the studio listening to, I think we was listening to like a Police joint, Police record, like, and the melody in the record was dope. And I was like, man, let's mess with that melody and like expand on it, and we did, and you know, we made it our own. And True Lies, that's what it came with.
I can kind of hear that now, like you said, like Police influence.
Teacher, why you keep feeding me false information? Taught, is this a way to keep me lost? songs that you hear to make us brighter, but you keep me in the dark. Told me turn a chapter and remember everything you taught. Educated fool, that's why we hated school. I guess I'm different. Had me venting about my teachers, but my preacher was no different. Mama picked up a tradition, a religion, I knew it. Had to break tradition, so mama, they lied to it.
That's what it is. That was a record that I felt like I had to address, like I guess more so like tradition or things you've been taught, like, or things you've learned from a young age and that's been with you all this time, and you know, getting to a point as an adult where you start questioning certain things, and that was like basically the song concept. So yeah.
What are some of your favorite lines? Is that education part where you sort of go in?
Yeah, what is it? The teacher, why you keep feeding me false information? Taught is this the way to keep me lost? Said you here to keep us brighter, but you keep me in the dark. Told me turn the chapter and remember everything you taught. Basically, man, you know, feeling like when you get to a point as an adult and you kind of like, you know, and you start looking at not just the education system, but you start thinking about when you were in school and like, man, how everyone gets treated the same, all the students get treated the same versus, you know, like every kid is different. Every kid has a different level of like, I guess, a comprehension. Every kid has a different kind of household, you know what I'm saying, comes from. So all of that plays an effect in how
we're not treated like unique individuals.
Yeah. So, and they, you know, especially from, you know, the time I was in school, like it's where everybody, like it was like 3 or 4 different professions they wanted, you know what I'm saying, to focus on versus, and it was never a thing where like, I feel like kids, any of the kids that might have had like some kind of artistic, like creativity in them, that kind of got suppressed more so because there was really no way that, you know, schools or the education system like let you explore that as a student, that side of yourself or that side of your brain as a student.
You have to go outside to do that.
Yeah. So, you know, that was just some of the stuff that was on my mind, you know what I'm saying? So I felt like, you know, it'd be interesting to pin it down, you know what I'm saying, put it in a verse. I'm gonna just go to the next joint, which is Drown.
Yeah, Drown.
It's like officer, what have you done? How many apples can spoil a bunch? You just need one. So if you can't stand up when fellow officers shoot a kid with their hands up, I don't know who we can trust. Middle fingers, both hands jammed in handcuffs. Seems like a war on its own. It's a manhunt. Demand us the land of the free. Can't even go and stand on the street without getting ran up. On with red and blue lights with 2 white cops already ready to pull triggers on sight or on who might just so happens to have black skin. They act now the same way that they did back then, back when. All for one for all, had to show them all. Fuck you, fuck your law, fuck your protocol. This never ending war, we've all seen this scene before. Trying to change but get the same results.
That's one of them things where, like, you know, we still seeing situations where, you know, with the black community and police or whatever. So yeah, I was like, I feel like I still had to, you know, I had to address it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, how do you approach that? Because a lot of people have been saying stuff about it, or like, how do you approach it when you want to touch on that type of topic where obviously it's a hot topic, everyone's speaking on it.
Yeah.
What's your approach with that?
It's funny because I felt like, you know, you kind of got to be careful how you put this into words, man. But it was one of those things where I was like, man, I thought about it for a while before I wrote my verse. So the first verse is kind of coming from the perspective of just like, you know, I guess being born into a certain condition where it push you, it makes you have a certain mentality, you know what I'm saying? A survival mentality where if someone isn't born into that same condition, they probably wouldn't understand, you know what I'm saying, why you are how you are, why you do the things you do and act the way you act. So that was kind of what the first verse was about. Second verse was about more so like, you know, when a lot of stuff was going on in terms of like, you know, people dying at the hands of police. Like I felt like, you know, every time you watch police talk about, you know, don't put us all in one, you know,
the bad apple
theory. Yeah. It's like it's good cops and bad cops, but I felt like, you know, if you know who the bad cops are, if you know who the bad apples out of the bunch are, it's kind of your job to like do something about it. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't, basically just as bad as them, you know what I'm saying? So that's where the line, you know, if you can't stand up when fellow officers shoot a kid with their hands up, I don't know who we can trust, you know what I'm saying? So, and you know, that's that, Drown. Next one will probably be, I'm gonna play, this been a fan favorite right here.
Okay, does that surprise you, whatever this is?
Nah, it don't necessarily surprise me. It was one of the first records I did, so it was one of those things where you make a record in the beginning and you have it for so long, so it just starts like, you know what I'm saying?
A little bit out of love with it.
So yeah, so it's always cool to see, you know, I would never hear an album the way fans hear the album because they're hearing everything for the first time. So yeah, man, so this song is called Could It Be?
Of a stacked fortune, black kid with dreams by any means to see some cell phone keys to a black portion. That American pie, he just wanna portion. Product of that environment that he was forced in. Change course when it's out of control. Feel it down in my soul. Fast forward and foresee that fork in the road. Listen, mention you on the road, phone call whipping. It's mind bending. Open your eyes, I'm bending the rules. Time's ticking. The time's different on the globe where every soul trying to survive in it. That's the main concern. Whole hood celebrate when the tables turn, you see. Feels like I'm on the cusp. Great forever, forever's not long enough, it's just.
This song is super Detroit, by the way, like the bounce of it. I just wanted to put that in there, man. This is that's that got the most response from fans and stuff. Like I just keep seeing could it be on my time. Like damn, okay. Guess I gotta.
What's weird because it has that bop, but then you're kind of aggressive too in the vocals. Like
man. Yeah, and that's I feel like that was a thing with majority of the album because I keep saying like, and anytime I talk about the album, it's like initially I went into the album to make like a feel good album because I felt like my last couple records was more dark. You know what I'm saying? So. But it was one of those things where, like I say, I felt like I had to address what was going on in this time we're living in this point in time. So, of course, that's a little darker. So it's a thing where like the music is a little more colorful and vibrant, a little more feel good, but the actual lyrics is like, you know, a little darker, a little, you know what I'm saying, a little more like. Damn, kind of heavy, you know what I'm saying?
Sweet out here.
Right, exactly. So, and it was funny because I'm like, man, I'm gonna be on some like super happy shit for this album, but nah, the times didn't allow it, man, you know. So yeah, it's one of those things, man, just as a producer, I try to like create albums or create a sound on my albums where like, I try to create a sound that doesn't necessarily exist in the time or period of music that I'm living in, you know what I'm saying? Not saying that I'm creating something that, you know, that never existed, you know what I'm saying? And nothing new under the sun, but talking about like unique. In the time that we're in right now, I try to reach for certain sounds and certain styles musically that I'm not hearing a lot of, you know what I'm saying? And versus like just going down the same, you know, lane or jumping on whatever trends is popping. So and that's why this album sounds like it sounds. So yeah, and we actually coming back up to the studio, so we put on that was like, you know, the album only 40 minutes. So, you know,
well, can we end with the outro joint?
Oh yeah.
Because that's two songs in one, right?
Yeah, you liked it. Well, really, it's one song, but I just did a weird title on it.
Okay, I was gonna ask,
because the vocal sample is saying you like to risk it all. Yeah. Things will never be. So I'm like, you know, rapping and playing around with the vocal sample, you know, with the lyrics. So yeah, you like to risk it all.
No, but I like it.
There you go.
I like it.
I'm always on that, ain't no time to play. Get high today, then hear my conscience say. Yeah, greatness is all I'm seeking. Go hard or go home beating, never thinking. Nah, no satisfaction for my effort is never enough. Don't fall for hype, I'm more like Tesla, no gas.
so about like kind of trying to end it on a note, like on a more uplifting note, I guess you could say, man. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
You like to risk it all. What's the sentiment behind that?
I mean, one of those things where like, basically like, I say I'm always on that ain't no time to play, get high today. Then hear my conscience say, you like to risk it all. Greatness is all I'm seeking.
That's what I asked you about that. Greatness is all I'm seeking.
Yeah, basically like risking, you know, having a goal, having a focus, and you know, feeling like you're ready to, or you're willing to risk it all to get to where you want to be. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like, I felt like that was like the perfect note to end the album on. You know, in the sense of like, no matter with all the craziness that goes on in everyone's life, you know, in the world, in the country, your neighborhood, whatever, like, you know, having that focus, still being able to have that focus and knowing, you know, what your end game is. So that's kind of what it was about, man.
Sounds good, man. You definitely passed that car test, man.
Man, yo, that means a lot, man. I finally got my Elliott Wilson like interview. You know what I'm saying? Like that means a lot to me, man. That's big. Like I know what that is in terms of like, you know what that mean in hip hop culture. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's an honor, man. You know, I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Car test TIDAL.
Car test, man.
Yeah.
For sure.